Hey guys, welcome back to the Manifix. I felt the need to touch on a subject that's been the topic of debate for a little while now, and that's the Secret Lair Walking Dead drop. And now that the Rules Committee has released their statement surrounding the issue, I just wanted to chime in because this is an important topic and something I feel the need to express my opinion on. So, first of all, let's talk about the cards. Now, these are mechanically unique cards that represent characters from AMC's The Walking Dead series. Now, what I mean by mechanically unique is that they're brand new magic cards. In other words, they didn't just take an already existing magic card and change the name and art to a Walking Dead character, like what they did with the Godzilla cards from Ikoria. No, these are just new creature cards in Magic the Gathering now. First off, I want to say that I think this is dumb. I really do. I don't like the idea of having the Walking Dead characters in my Magic the Gathering universe. I just think it's ridiculous. And I do understand the appeal to this, believe me. One thing I'm really into is the Monster Hunter video game series, if you guys have ever heard of that. And from time to time, I've enjoyed imagining how these creatures might be represented in Magic the Gathering. But never would I expect or even ask Wizards of the Coast to print mechanically unique magic cards representing Monster Hunter creatures. To me, that's absurd, and I wouldn't like it if they did it. Now, with that being said, I do want to provide my take on the Rules Committee's statement today. Right off the bat in their statement, they stated that they would not be banning the cards from this Secret Lair drop. This is something that many people were calling for, including a number of well-known content creators and members of the Commander EDH community. The three reasons for banning these cards that they considered when making their decision were the following. Number 1, the availability of the cards is problematic. Number 2, the existence of non-magic IPs on cards should be discouraged. Number 3, Negan is a dubious character. So I'm going to work my way backwards here, and I'm actually going to start with number 3. Negan is a fictional character, just like the characters of Magic. I can understand someone being offended by the atrocities that this character commits in the story of The Walking Dead. However, in my opinion, this is no different than a villain in Magic. For example, Yawgmoth is particularly evil and has committed horrible atrocities also. For one, he turned the creeping mold of Argoth into a plague that killed many of the elves there. He then kidnapped their priest and healers and held them for ransom so they couldn't cure the plague. Then, when the elves paid Yawgmoth's ransom, he gave them water and 12 dead healers. Yeah, that's messed up, but no one's calling for Yawgmoth Thran Physician to be banned. So, again, in my personal opinion, this isn't a reason to ban a card that represents a fictional character. Now, as for number 2, I don't think that intellectual property on Magic cards should necessarily be discouraged. I don't have an issue with the Godzilla cards, for example. In fact, I kind of like them, even though I'm not really a huge fan of Godzilla. However, the only reason I'm okay with those is that there's a functionally identical card that fits inside of the Magic universe. So no, it doesn't bother me that there's a version of Illuna Apex of Wishes that's represented by Ghidorah from Godzilla. In fact, I think that's kind of cool. But the difference between that and the Walking Dead cards is that the Walking Dead cards are functionally unique. Which brings me to point number 1. The availability of these cards is problematic. If Wizards had used existing cards and put Walking Dead art on them and changed the name to a Walking Dead character, there wouldn't be nearly as much outrage about this product. For example, if they created, let's say, a version of Liliana Death's Majesty and called it Michonne Ruthless Survivor and put that character's art on it, cool, fine. No harm done. But instead, they decided to make a brand new card specifically for this character. That's the problem. This is a brand new card that will only be available for a week, and after that, it's gone. I totally disagree with this. However, I don't agree that we should be asking the Rules Committee to ban these cards. Now, I'm not certain what factors exactly the Rules Committee considers when deciding what cards should be banned, but I think the most important factor for them is whether or not the card is problematic in the format. In other words, is the card an automatic include? Does having the card give you an unfair advantage over other players that don't? This is probably the biggest reason to ban a card. But another reason might be exactly what they're talking about here. The availability of the card. In the past, availability hasn't been a huge factor in deciding to ban a card. For example, they haven't banned Mana Crypt or Gaia's Cradle or anything like that. It might have been a factor in some decisions, but not the sole reason to ban a card. For example, look at the Moxes. Yes, Moxes are incredibly difficult to obtain. Most of us will never see one in person, let alone own one. But that's not the only reason why they're banned. They're also banned because they're incredibly powerful. A 0 mana artifact that taps for 1 mana of a color that your deck needs is too good. Not to mention that card is insanely expensive. I think those two things combined are what make Moxes bannable. I really don't think this is the case with the Walking Dead cards, though. Yes, they may end up being pricey and may be quite difficult to obtain after the purchase period is passed. But the fact that they may end up being difficult to obtain is not in this case coupled with the fact that they are also overly powerful commander cards. They just aren't. And ultimately, that's why I agree with the Rules Committee's decision to not ban these cards. As much as a lot of the people in our community don't like these cards, there are going to be many people that are looking forward to playing these cards in their commander decks or building around them. Is it fair to them that they can't take advantage of a new product that they're excited about? Now, there's one other point made by the Rules Committee that I want to highlight. They said one of the calls from the community was that we should ban these cards to send a signal to Wizards of the Coast for a blatantly commercial act. First of all, we don't think it's appropriate to tell them how to run their business. That's way outside the scope of our charter. It absolutely is. Telling Wizards that they can't make a certain product is way out of line for the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee's job at this point is to operate in the best interest of all Commander players and ensure a healthy format. Telling Wizards of the Coast, the company that ultimately makes the game and prints the cards that we love, that they can't do something solely because a lot of players don't like it, is not within the scope of their ability or what they set out to do as an organization. It's totally unfair to ask them to ban these cards because players think there's an issue with availability. Ultimately, these cards won't affect the health of the format. They won't create gameplay issues, and honestly, how often are you going to see these cards anyways? Let's be honest, probably not that often. But anyways, this is just my opinion, and that means you don't have to agree with me. So what do you guys think of all this? I'd love to know your opinion, so leave it in the comments. And as always, thanks for getting your fix with me today. Stay safe out there, and peace out, guys.